back to the Base Indonesian Show, where we unearth some dark Indonesian secrets that would probably get me unalived for sharing it. Today, I will share to you a shocking fact in history that will mortify all the mums in the neighborhood WhatsApp groups and Indonesian nationalists. Are you ready? As we look to the past, we often come across many historical facts we find weird. Some are okay, that's kind of funny weird, and others are okay, that's pretty disturbing kind of weird. Because of this, it's just best to forget it happened. Most people tend to forget that Indonesia and Israel were in bed together. Not literally, I meant figuratively, else that would make for amusing fan fiction. But why did this happen in the first place? How come a furiously anti-Western country that tries to be more Muslim than the Arabs can be in bed with a country that is the embodiment of everything that is wrong with the West? How could this unholy matrimony happen? Who let this happen? Back in my most epic phase, the university activist phase, I discovered a book called Every Spy is a Prince, The Complete History of Israel's Intelligence Community. A very epic book about the background of the ruthless Mossad, Israel's very own boogeyman. It was written by Dan Raviv and Yossi Melman, both journalists who were involved in Israel's intelligence and strategic affairs. While the book has been breaking substantial new grounds, it provides an anecdotal experience to the history of Israel's intelligence community. I would take the book with a grain of salt since a lot of it is just blatant adventurism, but one part of the book stood out to me, which was when Indonesia decided to partner up with Mossad to train security and intelligence personnel. Yes, Indonesia hired the Mossad to train our security and intelligence personnel. This part is really interesting because Indonesia is staunchly against Israel and Zionism and the West in general. Well, at the time. After Suharto deposed Sukarno, Suharto decided that he would be looking for new advisors. He no longer wants to be playmates with the Soviet Union because they're commies, obviously, and Suharto hates commies. The leader of a few million of them in Indonesia. He distrusts the West due to their meddling of Indonesian affairs in the old order, despite working with them mostly because of their money. At the same time, Israel was opening up a new Mossad station in Singapore to launch spying and diplomatic operations from. Indonesia caught wind of Mossad being inside Southeast Asia, especially since Adolf Eichmann's kidnapping by the Mossad has become acquainted with Mossad's ruthlessness and efficiency. And Suharto, he liked that. He fell in love with how Mossad kidnapped people, and so he invited them to train his military. Thing is, most Indonesians hated Israel due to them being the embodiment of Western degeneracy, quote-unquote. So the most sensible thing to do in order to get them in was to disguise them as American and European instructors. They entered the country posing to be businessmen, and then they taught Indonesian soldiers and spies the art of kidnapping people in broad daylight using American uniforms. And most Indonesians, I guess, didn't really pick up their heavy Hebrew accent. Or maybe their super hairy Jewish chest rug, but I think it's because we didn't know any better back then. Indonesia and Israel continued this rather naughty alleyway love affair behind the backs of Arab countries because Israel seems so smexy in how they do things. At some point in 1975, Indonesia sent 60 officers to train with the Shayetet 13 on insertion and infiltration. The result was the establishment of the Special Forces Training School to train Indonesian Special Forces in airborne and amphibious infiltration. Around the 80s, Indonesia purchased 20-ish Skyhawks from Israel in Tehran, Iran, which sounds really weird because Iran hates Israel. Their continued nighttime rendezvous culminated in Yitzhak Rabin visiting Suharto in 1993. Continued with Gus Dur wanting to open up official relations with Israel in 2000s. Gus Dur was impeached from office, Indonesia became more pro-Palestine, and took sports very seriously to the point of not letting Israel come to play Indonesia's favorite sport. It's as if though Indonesia wants to be with Israel, but external forces are forcing them apart like Romeo and Juliet. Who knows, one day Indonesia can finally get together with a toxic and insane Israel. A relationship that can never be because Indonesia is best bros with Palestine. But guys, here's a tip. Never stick your wiener into crazy. You'll crave more. That's the moral of the story. Goodbye, real people.
Subscribe to the Based Indonesian Show. Dijamin halal